I think the biggest challenge is a lot of times people aren't clear on what that outcome is really going to provide or what's going to look like when they get to retirement, which is too bad.
Greetings, well builders. Welcome to Get Diversified, your go-to podcast for all things real estate investments.
I'm Jacqueline.
Melvin Landry. We're thrilled to embark on this wealth building journey with you.
Imagine this. What if your investments not only secure your future, but also unlock a life of financial freedom? That's what we're diving into on this show. Apartment buildings, storage facilities, mobile home parks, the whole shebang.
But here's the kicker. It's not just about investing. It's about crafting a legacy, building memories with your loved ones, and seizing every moment. Time is the currency of life. And let's be real, none of us wants to waste.
We've got the insights, experience, and dash of excitement to spice up your investing game. Plus, we'll throw in some real-life stories that'll make you see the potential in every brick and mortar.
Subscribe, buckle up, and get ready to turn your investments into the ticket to financial freedom. Together, we're not just building wealth, we're building the community of savvy investors. Let's get diversified.
So talking about how to multiply your capital, which is hedging inflation, talk about another property that we bought, an 84 unit deal. We purchased it for 4.75 million. We ended up selling it for 6.75 million. And so with that, you put $100,000 in. And when we sold, you have an equity multiple called, like, let's just say 1.8 or 2. So equity multiple purely means if you got a 1.8, your 100,000 turned into 180,000. If it's a 2, your 100,000 turns into 200,000. Same plan, different property. We did a CapEx upgrade. We put 420 grand into interior upgrades. We put in a playground. We did a water conservation program. And we moved rents up by about $150 to $175 on average. And so that right there, you didn't need a double rent. If rent was $1,000, we moved it to $1,150 or $1,175. If you went from 1,000 to 2,000, you would have such tremendous NOI growth. There is one other piece. Your question it has to be brought up. If you're asking this question, is what did cap rates do? And cap rates are purely a way to come up with values of what the apartment is worth. So if cap rates compress or go down, values go up. If cap rates go up, values come down. And interest rates drastically affect that. So as we all know, back in 21 and 22, the Fed started to raise rates. And when they raised rates, it costs more to borrow money. Your cash flow gets eaten by the higher interest rate. Mm-hmm. Cap rates followed. And when cap rates followed, values did not do well. Values came down. And so now we're seeing a time where rates are relatively high compared to the last, 15 years. And they're talking about lowering rates due to the jobs reports. So jobs are struggling. The economy is slowing down. There's real data coming out. This isn't fictitious of like, we just think this is coming. This is what we're seeing real time. And so now you've got talk about rates coming down. Is that a good thing? No, not really, right? It means the economy is struggling, but can it be good for real estate? Yeah, it can, because likely that means it costs less to borrow money, bringing cap rates down and values up. So that's how we use real estate to hedge inflation and make the capital multiply in a relatively short period of time. We're talking a 3 to 7 year hold period, depending on what the market's doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I love that you talked about cap rate compression and interest rates and hedging. I mean, that's all things that listeners, you guys need to know and understand when you're getting into a deal like that. And then also understanding and shifting the mindset from saving, which is what we all learned. At least I did, Dan, right? Going to school, you want to save money, you want to invest in 401k, and you want to work till you're 65 and then hope you have enough money to live this wonderful dream that you've been dreaming about for 65 years. And you have to shift that mindset. And that's not easy for folks to do. And so, Dan, I don't know if you know, but we have a 10-year-old. He's turning 11 in a few days, and we're teaching him about passive income. He knows about passive income. He knows that concept. He knows that last year when he had to go work at a job, he put on these nice pants and a nice shirt. And I said, "Why do you look so sad?" And he goes, "'Cause Mom, I have to go to the rat race."
Mm.
He
Mm.
understands that. He understands inflation a little bit, right? Not all the way, but folks, understand all that and try to think about this new concept called investing, which is hedging your bets against inflation for sure.
Mm. Yeah. I think that's great, and what an opportunity for your child to be able to work at the age he's at and to be able to be clear on an outcome he's looking to create with his wealth. I think the biggest challenge you see a lot in America, at least from my perspective, is people are working hard, but they don't have a goal they're reaching for other than to put money in the bank or fill their 401k, which if you're clear on what that outcome is and you're happy with it, awesome. I think the biggest challenge is a lot of times people aren't clear on what that outcome is really going to provide or what's going to look like when they get to retirement, which is too bad.
Sure. And just thinking about how your parents supported you through snowboarding. My son wants to be a pilot,
Mm,
which is great.
beautiful.
Hey, learn to become a pilot. But what else? I said, you want to buy a $15 million jet. How many years are you going to have to work to be able to afford that jet? Probably way too many. You're going to be too old for it. I said, so you need to think differently about, okay, you want to fly for X number of years, start passively investing, right?
Hmm.
So your money is working for you while you're also making money up there in the air. I said, but let's think above and beyond that. What about owning a company where we own or lease private jets? Now you can make as much money as you want by depending on how many jets you have to lease out. So I'm getting him to think about these other things. I said, because you're making money when you're not working.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And the piece that you could also discuss with him about, and for a lot of your listeners to consider, is what tax paying you're living in. So,
Yes.
that was the third point that I learned as a professional athlete. All of a sudden, I get this large 3, 4, 5 contracts, and all of a sudden, I'm making this good money. And then at the end of the year, the government says, oh, yeah, we need 30, 40% of what you're making because that's just what's owed based on the system. One thing I wish I would have learned at a younger age is about the BI quadrant. If you got, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You got the E, which is the employee, S is self-employed, B is business owner, and I is investor. And every quadrant has a different level of tax. Me, as a professional snowboarder, I'm in the S quadrant, and the S quadrant, unfortunately, is taxed at a very high level. So what I learned at a young age was I needed to get a CPA on my team, somebody who could help guide me, who could help
Yes.
share the knowledge with me, because I'm not going to go out and read the tax law. Like, let's just be real here. I'm a snowboarder, but it's not something I'm interested in. So I hire a tax team member, and he says, hey, Dan, you're making, let's just say, for example, in 2015, I was making somewhere right around 325,000 a year as a snowboarder, which at that time for 2015 and where I'm at, that's pretty good money. I'm pretty happy with
Yeah.
that. Yeah. And at the end of the year, I was smart enough to at least set up an LLC. So I had some expenses. So I think it was like 72 grand of expenses. And I had a taxable income of $253,000. So just the federal tax I owed was 52 grand. And he says, hey, what's your wife do? Is she liking what she's doing? And I'm like, no, she hates it. She is a waitress at a restaurant. And
Go
he says,
become a realtor. Go become a realtor.
yeah, what he actually said is he said, hey, you've got 55 units. How would she like to manage the properties and be on site and, oversee some of the CapEx and do some of the bookkeeping? And I'm like, well, let me check with her. And I asked her how she would like this. And she's like, well, it doesn't sound extremely exciting, but if I don't have to work at Red Robin, I'm open to it. And so she does it, and she ends up getting 750 hours as a real estate professional. We're married. And so now, all of the investments I'm making into real estate, I now qualify for bonus depreciation. And we can do these things called cost segregation studies, which accelerates the depreciation. And all that means, in very simple terms, is you have a large loss on paper that's not real, but the government is incentivizing you to take care of older real estate, or any real estate for that matter, and improve it and provide a great, safe living space. So in example number 2, making 325,000, same income. Now I have a real estate depreciation loss with my investments in real estate of 140,000. So again, just on paper, not in real life. And then I have my expense deduction taken away from that, which is the same 72 grand. And now my taxable income went from 253,000 down to 113,000. Now my federal tax owed is only 17 grand. So what, a $34,000 savings of what I would owe to the government that I can now invest into real estate just in 2015 alone. So these are a few concepts, passive income, hedging inflation, and how to use depreciation that are available to anybody. And if I can do it, you can do it. So I just, those are the three things that really changed my life. And if I was listening to this podcast right now, I would learn more about those or get in contact with people like us that can help people who want to be passive investors come along for the ride and be a part of what we're doing. And you can get to know any syndicator across the country and build a relationship with them. And after you build a great relationship, you'll know when the time is right to invest. And yep, there's some risk involved. There's risk with any investing, but from the cycle we're in and you look at someone's track record, you can get a very good feel of what's likely coming. And I think these next 3 years are going to be some of the best times we've seen since 2012.
Yes. So, what's next for Dan?
Yeah, for us, our company is just in a phase of growth. We have 3,300 units. We've got 170 million of equity currently under management. We're looking to go to 10 to 12,000 units over the next decade and just be able to provide a beautiful place for limited partners. We call them LPs, for limited partners or passive investors to be able to put their money to work and receive the passive income, hedging inflation and depreciation alongside us. We're buying deals that are 30, 40, 50 million dollar deals, and we're raising equity to the tune of 10 to 20 million dollars per deal. And so it takes a fair amount of equity to do these deals. That's really where we're at. My whole thing going back to it, Jacqueline, was I just pictured a day of my snowboarding career being over and I having enough passive income to still maintain my freedom. And I think about that for our investors. What do we need to do? How do we create a place where you have enough passive income where if you go on vacation and you come back, there's more money in your bank account than when you left? That's winning it financially, purely
Yes.
speaking financially. There's so many other avenues of life to win at, but one that I'd never want to be straddled with ever again, because I had a long time where I was, is being worried about where the money's at, how much I'm making. So that's the goal, to continue to do at our company at Granite Towers and to provide that opportunity for as many LPs as we possibly can.
So, as final question, and so as an investor, so you're in the real estate asset class umbrella. Does your investment portfolio expand the real estate asset class?
So currently, the only two assets we're investing in are multifamily apartments and triple net real estate. And so they're very similar investments, but there are some differences. And the car washes give very, very large depreciation, extremely consistent cash flow. Those are the two things that we're buying for when we buy car washes. Apartments, you've got three. You've got the passive income, the larger hit likely on an exit if you can drive NOI, and then also the tax savings as well, which is not quite as much as triple net. But those are the only two assets we're focused on. I do invest in other things like gold and silver and some crypto and all that, but that's nothing to do with Granite Towers.
Awesome. So, Dan, if our viewers and listeners want to talk more about real estate with you and in your group, how do they get in touch?
Yeah, you bet. So it's just granitetowersequitygroup.com, just www.granitetowersequitygroup.com/contact us. And if you put your email or phone number in there, myself or someone from the team can hop on and get to know your investing goals and see if we're a good fit. And, worst case scenario, you get in our database and you can start to see deals come through. You can start to see these types of deals and you can jump on our webinars when we're presenting the deals. And there's never pressure to invest. It'll just be, hey, here's a deal. We're going to have a live webinar on this date. It's about an hour long where we're going to run through everything A to Z of this deal. And you can ask questions at the end. And if you're like, yeah, I still don't know these guys, I don't feel good about this, just wait and just continue to see those deals come through the pipeline.
Yeah, I love that. Continue to learn, just jump on as many webinars as possible so that you can start getting acclimated with these terms and how us multifamily investors talk and all the different acronyms and all that good stuff. Awesome. Well, thanks, Dan, for a great interview, and we'll be talking soon.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it. Awesome.
Jacqueline and Melvin, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to listen to this episode of Get Diversified. Please make sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on future episodes. Finally, stop by our website and follow us on social media. Ciao for now. Make it a great day, and we'll see you next time. And remember, get diversified.